Nowhere is more iconic than Mount Fuji in Japan, overlooking the Fuji International Speedway, which plays hosts to rounds 3 and 4 of the Japan Cup. This is the Saturday Race 1, and we have the biggest grid we've ever had in Japan Cup as it stands alone for the first time on the SRO Power Tour calendar. It started a few weeks back in Sugo. Sportland Sugo was rounds 1 and 2. It will conclude in Okayama in middle of August. A 4-venue, 8-round series, which is going to go strength to strength. And that is the opinion of the boss. Stefan Rattel is here in Fuji to enjoy the biggest grid we've ever had. And he caught up with our pit reporter Amy a little bit earlier on.
From this festive, massive grid, and look who I have found here, Stefan Rattel. Stefan, look at this crowd, it's huge, and you must have a festive feeling as well.
I'm very pleased. It's my first visit to the championship in Asia this year, and I'm of course delighted with the growth. It's the diversity of cars, of nationalities, so many different Asian drivers and Asian team from China, from Japan, from Indonesia, and even from Australia here, Korea, and all of it. It's really encouraging, and the championship continues to grow.
Indeed, it is a full grid, and also there is the Independent Japan Cup. How do you see that growing?
Well, I think it's a very good, very good concept. We had the China Cup, the Japanese Cup, and it's the way to grow a grid and for many drivers to compete for something. When you have a very, very large grid, you could have the feeling you just make up numbers. So if you have different cups, everybody competes for something, and it's that's the idea behind it.
So it is very, to represent this biggest GT race in Asia is just such a great feeling. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
No, what we wanted was to have really this Pan-Asian championship, and we want what we had for the first two events. We have close racing and something enjoyable for the fan and for the drivers as well.
Let's enjoy some heat on the track then.
Yes, we'll enjoy the race.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amy catching up there with Stefan Rattel before the start of the GT World Challenge powered by AWS Race 1 here in Asia, which took place a little bit earlier on. They have been split this year so that Japan Cup is standalone. And this is the circuit. Fuji International Speedway, 4.5 kilometers in length, 16 turns. That last sector so much more fiddly than the rest of the lap, which is pretty open and very medium speed. A circuit that was built in the 1960s, originally as an oval, but never became an oval because they ran out of money. And then it got shortened for Formula One in the mid-2000s. Let's go down to Amy now, live on the grid with our pole sitters for Japan Cup.
高木選手、前回スゴで、両レースともちょっと真ん中には立てなかったっていうちょっと悔しい思いをしているかと思うんですけど、ちょっと厳しい質問だとは思うんですが、こう真ん中に立つためのパズルのピースはどんなピースなんでしょうか。
2回目なので、なんとなくそれが少しずつ分かってきたので、本当にピットのロスタイムをいかに減らすかというのと、タイヤの使い方っていうのを重点的に今回考えてきたので、今回は大丈夫だと思います。
So my question was, what is the missing piece of the puzzle to become P1 in the podium? Because it slipped away last time at Sugo, both races for them. And he is saying that it is just the tire management and also just do not lose time. Obviously, also at the pit stop and everything. So that combined, they will try all the best to become P1 today. さあ、山脇選手、スタートドライバーですけれども、もうね、前回に続けて2回目ということで緊張されてないですよね。
なんか相当緊張してましたけど、そうなの、なんでだろうなと思ってね、一番早いタイム出すっていうのを自信持って言ってもらったら、前回のスゴも最初すごくぶっちぎってくれたんで、今回もマージン作って、戻ってきてくれれば大丈夫だと思います。
期待してるんで頑張ってください。
頑張ります。
So his partner Yamawaki, he's apparently very nervous this time, but he has a lot of faith in his partner, so he's praying that he will come back safely and give him the car safely. Back to you.
They really tried to establish themselves, race 1 in Sugo, themselves and the number 9 Bingo Racing going side by side. Very aggressive racing it was. Let's have a look now at this Fuji circuit with the driver's eye, Mauro Engel.
Hey guys, Mauro Engel here, racing for Craft Bamboo Racing this weekend in car number 30, and let me take you for a lap around Fuji Speedway. One of the longest straights of the year, 1.8 kilometers of straight, so maximum top speed, big braking down into second gear for turn 1. Try and get to that curb. A bit of a moment for the Nissan ahead of me, and we're on our way to turn 3. Fast corner in 4th gear, get to that inside curb. Make sure you don't do track limits on the exit, but still using all the road available. And then turns 4 and 5. Nice high-speed section here. Get to that inside apex in turn 5 and set yourself up for turn 6. Down 2 gears into second. Make sure you get a good exit. Bit of a moment for me there with some oversteer. Get the power down all the way through 7, 8, 9, and then big braking again for turn 10. Get close to that inside curb and set yourself up for 11, 12, which is a tight left-right chicane. Getting the power down, using the curb on the right, and then blind over a small crest into turn 13. Make sure you keep the car within track limits again. Very tricky section here, braking for turn 15 to the inside curb, and once again keep it within the track limits, and setting ourselves up for that final corner where we need a good exit, as mentioned, one of the longest straights. Keep the car within track limits again, and then off we go all the way down that long straight. That was one lap of Fuji Speedway.
Isn't it amazing how different the track looks when you go on board driver's eye, how wide the circuit is in the early stages and how tight that chicane is. We saw massive understeer from Mauro Engel on that lap. A really great perspective of also the undulations that this place has. So Japan Cup after the first 2 rounds in Sugo is led by Bingo Racing. However, the Corvette that took 2 victories there, it has a different driver lineup for this weekend. So Shinji Takai is aboard the car, but Uko Sasahara has been replaced by Motoki Takami, which means it is now a fully AM competitor and not Pro-Am. It's going to be difficult to win.
武井選手、前代未聞のスゴでダブルウィンというね素晴らしい成績残して、まだ記憶に浅いと思うんですけど、今回は体制がちょっと変わりまして、アマ参戦でもチャンピオンシップリーダーです。どんな戦い方期待しますか？
今回初めて本木選手と組むので、だけど彼もフリーから、すごいいい走りをしてくれていて、ちょっと予選は本当に彼にとってちょっと申し訳ないなっていうか、車が調子悪くてちょっとなんだろう、本当に焦ってる中でのアタックだったので、ただフィードバックしっかりくれて僕の予選につなげてくれたので、2人合わせて力を合わせてまずは完走すること、あとはもうアマクラスでは必ず優勝すること、それを2人で頑張って勝ち取ろうねっていう話をさっきしてました。はい、
では楽しみにしてますんで期待してます。はい、頑張ってください。
はい、ありがとうございます。よろしくお願いします。
So yes, they were doing quite well at free practice. It's the first time for Motoki to step in this car this weekend. So he's been gradually learning a lot about the car and everything. He has a lot of faith in his partner, so he'll try to have the car pushed to the front as hard as he can and then give it to Take, and he will also try his best. The quali didn't go as they wished, but however, starting from second row is not too bad, and he's looking forward to the race today.
Listen, let's put this into perspective. Pole position, a 141.024. Motoki, first time in that car, 141.119. It was so close between the top 3. Let's focus now on GT4, where we have BMW leading the championship after the first 2 rounds. It was actually the 39 car that took victory in the second race. And Toyota Gazoo Racing of Manopo and Nonaka. No Nonaka this weekend, he's been replaced as well. We've got a couple of different drivers out there in GT4. Let's go back down to Amy, who is on the grid No, I think maybe she's not on the grid as we're getting close to the race start. But it's close in GT4, as you can see, with the points. Just 4 points between the top 3 different teams. As I say, it's Saita Nonaka in second position, not here this weekend. Kazushi Urabe will replace him and actually did a very good job in qualifying. So grid is now cleared, or clearing. Just a reminder that we have 2 Pro-Am entries in this Japan Cup in GT3, and then the rest of the GT3 field, 6 GT3 AM teams, including that Corvette. It's a GT AM for this weekend. Then we have a GTC car, which is like an old GT3, and 7 GT4 cars split into 2 AMs and 5 silver AMs. So effectively, you've got 4 races going on. The grid is now clear. On board, we have, with a 39 Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia car, it's going to be Manopo who starts the car. As I say, Arabe teammate. And their big fight is with the 38 Toyota. Lots of chat going on the grid. Let's go down to Amy, who's got a quick grab with our GT4 teams.
さあ、加納選手、まもなくね、ジャパンカップラウンド3になりますけれども、チャンピオンシップリーダーとして今週末挑んでますが、なんかあんま調子良くないというか、パンクチャーですか？
あんま調子良くないのも正直そうなんですけど、予選は藤井選手もアタックラップに右のフロントタイヤがパンクして、で僕もアタックラップ入ろうかなという時に、どうやら右のリアがどんどんスローパンクチャーしてたんで。でなんかおかしいな、なんかおかしいなって言って、なんかこう探りいってると、そのままもう本当にコンマ5ぐらいまで行っちゃって、でそのままもうピットに入って変えていったんですけど、美味しいところはなくなってるっていうような状況ですね。はい。
でも本戦でパンクチャーないことを祈って、はい、応援してますんで。
そうですね。
はい。
とりあえず決勝はパンクしてしまうと終わっちゃうので、なのでなんとかねきちっと追い上げてできるように頑張ります。
頑張ってください。ありがとうございます。So apparently they had both qualifying a puncture for him the rear right and then for his partner the rear the front right. So there have been incidents happening and we just wish, or he just prays, that no puncture will happen in the race. Back to you.
Masaki Kano is such a cool character, isn't he? Took victory in Sugo in race 1, but only 3rd position in the second of the races. They still do lead the points by just about 3-point margin. There is a Mercedes GT4 Evo. We haven't seen any of that car until now. We've also got a McLaren 570S, a Porsche Cayman, then the BMW that leads the championship, and 3 Toyota Supras. The car to have. There's the K-Tunes Toyota Supra running that same kind of confused livery that the GT3 cars have. So K-Tunes running a Toyota Supra, a Lexus and a Ferrari 296. There is the Lexus and Ferrari. And throwing back to about 10 years ago, Williams team wear. I always find it very odd when you see someone wearing Formula 1 team wear and they're not in the Formula 1 grid, especially when it's not the correct era as well. Do like that livery though. Martini livery is always good. Nice one to replicate. If we're doing anything like the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia race, we probably will have 2 formation laps just to allow these bronze drivers to get a feel for the conditions. Quite different to what we saw this morning. Because it was beautiful blue sky, quite calm. Now there's a decent tailwind down the main straight and the clouds are forming. We are expecting rain later on this evening. We are expecting a pretty miserable day tomorrow, to be honest. We're not expecting any rain for this race, but that tailwind, especially with these big cars, will have an effect. Seems like there's a slow starting Nissan. It's got going again. cars now are rolling. Great spectator, I was about to say field, but that's not quite correct. There's a lot of spectators here, and they're all really enjoying their motorsport. Here is the grid then. It's a Ferrari from K-Tunes, Yamawaki on the pole position, alongside a very similar car run by Comet Racing. Bingo Racing's Motoki Rookie in third position. Uematsu is a lone driver in that McLaren in fourth. Hoshino in fifth position. Suwana in sixth. And then Oyagi and Nishiwana, the two Nissans. Haga and Higuchi on row 5. Higuchi being the first of our GT4 competitors. Then it's Manopo and Fuji. Those are our 3 battling for the championship in GT4. Makino for Sunrise Boulevard, and then Ando for JBR. Great to have them with us. Nagai for K-Tunes, Toyota Supra in 15th, and Toyota is 16th. Clouds are forming in the mountains around us, aren't they? 16 cars, an improvement of 2 over what we saw in Sugo at the start of June. Going to Suzuka next, probably will encourage a few more to join the party. Just a reminder that Sashihara, who was in that number 9 Bingo Racing Corvette last time out, makes such a big difference in a Pro-Am category car. Racing in Super Formula this weekend, and therefore not part of this squad, which means the car becomes an AM category car, and Motoki Takami is the AM driver that qualified the car on the pole position, on the third position, sorry, but less than a 10th behind the pole position. And that's the key thing. This first race, we have the bronze driver starting, the amateur driver starting. So they are all of the same grading, and in theory, therefore, similar experience. There are not any pros or silver drivers on the grid right now. When we change to the second driver, that's when we get a couple of silvers, mainly in the GT4 categories, but we do have the 2 K-Tunes cars entered as Pro-Am cars, and therefore Mori Onita and Shinichi Takagi will jump aboard the 96 and the 98. Clock starts ticking from now, so effectively the race is started, but the first lap is under safety car conditions. Manopo joined by Urabe for this weekend. Nonaka is out. Ochai is out of the number 38 car. Higuchi is the driver that's taken over from him in the Wakayama Toyota. And then Katayama is out of the number 16 Mercedes. And Yashioto Fukumi is the driver that is taken over from Katayama in the 16. Those are a few of our driver changes. Other than that, I think every other team is pretty much as they were in Suzuka, in Sugo, sorry. The addition, of course, of the 81 Nissan, Nobuyuki Oyagi and Uchikiro Oyagi, and the addition of the number 64 JBR McLaren. Of Yasutako Ando and Osamu Kondo. Good look at how tight that chicane is. There is that rise that we saw on the driver's eye with Maro Engel, just kind of where the camera is placed. don't necessarily get the same sense that you do when we were on board with him. Even our onboard cameras don't quite show the same feature. In K-Tunes, 96, 97 and 98 all run out of that same garage. And now we're going to get ready for the start. We've got two Ferrari 296s on the front row. Car that's barely a year old in competition. Very much a car that people are migrating to. Watch out for the McLaren beside the Corvette. Very, very fast. And with only one driver, Tadao Uematsu could also find himself on the podium as he was in Sugo in race 2. Safety car holds him at a very slow speed and will dart off last minute. Feel as though Yamawaki has got a little bit of an advantage here. Sujiku needs to pull up alongside him. I have no idea why he's not, but he's handing a huge advantage to the K-Tunes Ferrari as we get ready for the start. Now I think he's drawn a little bit closer. Lights are out and off we go, and already Yamawaki has clear track to pull along to the right-hand side onto the racing line and into the first turn. Down the inside, Bingo Racing's Corvette gets better traction out of turn 1 and up into second position. Sujiku certainly not confident in that Comet Racing Ferrari in these first couple of corners, handing that second position to Bingo Racing. Uematsu in the McLaren, 4th spot, and then we have Hoshino in the D-Station Aston Martin. The 96 Lexus not qualifying very well. Tsunaga down on row 3 in 6th position, and is in 6th position now as the McLaren looks to the inside for 3rd position. No space there. Uematsu sits behind Suzuko. With Takami in 2nd position. Motoki Takami and Yamawaka in the lead, but under pressure from Takami. Not sure how, with such little experience, Takami already feeling so comfortable in that Bingo Racing Corvette. Over the line after lap 1, 0.4 of a second separate the two cars. And here comes Uematsu down the inside to try and grab 3rd position. Doesn't quite get the car stopped as he might have wanted. Number 7 dives to the inside to try and get better run out of turn 1 through to 2, but not quite enough. And Uematsu, who is not sharing that car with anybody else, grabs himself 2nd position. Let's have a look how it was done again. Start of the race. Number 7 holding back as they went across the line. Yamawaki was a good car length ahead before they got to the line. I wouldn't blame that on Yamawaki. I don't think he did anything wrong there, but just Suzuki just nowhere close to being alongside him. And they came through here, had the Corvette down the inside of him. Corvette with better traction, and off they went. Ferrari versus Corvette. Takami under the rear wing of Yamawaki as they come over the line for the 2nd time. He might be a rookie, but he's driving like a pro here. Bingo Racing without their pro driver down the inside. He looks. That's at least going to put off Yamawaki, especially as we heard on the grid that he was not feeling particularly comfortable or confident. Then there's a gap. Uematsu will be desperately trying to close down that gap now that he's clear of Shizuko. And the Nissans rumble through shot. Oyagi and Nishikawa battling for 7th position and the best of the Nissans. It's really sad we don't see more of those Nissan GT. They're quite an old car now. The technology has really changed in GT3 racing over the years. User-friendly for both mechanic and driver. So unfortunately, in many championships, the Nismo has kind of been put to one side. Once again down into turn 1, hard on the brakes. The nose of the Corvette dives under the rear wing of the Ferrari, but there's no space to get down the inside yet. But there's no need to panic. We've got 50 minutes still remaining. There's a cool graphic showing that the Corvette stronger in the final sector of the lap. Considering when you think of a Corvette, you think of Americana, you think of big straights and big grunt, versus the Ferrari, which is an Italian car built for the Italian roads. I would have put it round the other way, but they're getting that Corvette working as we see a change in GT4. Manopo in the 39, up ahead of Higuchi in the 38. And actually, the BMW's there too, isn't it? Fuji in the number 50, as we said, very likely to be these 3 cars battling for the podium contention, and at the moment they're battling over the same bit of tarmac. And the more they battle, the more that they allow that big BMW to stay in the party. It's incredible to think that all of these different cars are balanced, using the balance of performance so that they are effectively capable of running the same lap times, despite how completely different they are. Look at how big the BMW looks in comparison, well, to any of the GT4 cars, to be fair, but this is usually the Supra is not a particularly big car, a small car. Corvette up into the lead of the race, ahead of the Ferrari. That looks like it's happened at turn 1. Takami has pushed ahead of Yamawaki. And actually it looks as though there might even be quite a good battle for 3rd position as well. Uematsu in the McLaren got himself up into 3rd ahead of the other Ferrari, but hasn't managed to join this party, hasn't managed to scuttle away. And here is how it was done. Down the main straight. Little bit of aerodynamic wash. And a lovely move there. Went straight for the apex. Elongated the braking zone as much as you can by going from the outside to the inside, giving you a bit more time on the brakes, on the anchors. Got the car stopped. A little bit of a rebuttal from Yamawaka on the exit. But I would say, whilst Motoki is defending, Yamawaki is nowhere close to inheriting any kind of slipstream from him. They are, though, with a big gap to Uematsu. Lights ablaze in the mirrors of the McLaren. Tsujiko in the Ferrari, Hoshino in the D-Station Aston. And then a bit more of a gap back to the K-Tunes Lexus, which in the hands of Morionita, who will be taking over that car for the second half of the race, is a fast car, but at the moment is just a little bit off the pace of the cars ahead. Scored 2 5th positions, that car, in Sugo. Oh, now there's been a... Is that a change, or is that that's the next? No, it is a change. BMW up to 2nd position, so splitting the two Toyotas. Higuchi down to 3rd then. Higuchi is the new driver to the number 38 Wakayama Toyota. Back to the head of the field. Do you think that Bingo Racing Corvette looks so very different in those colours? It seems to kind of emphasise bits of the Corvette that in the traditional yellow, all yellow, you don't necessarily appreciate in the design of the car. Looks very, very aggressive. The two Nissans still running together. 7th position is the fight. Miyagi in the 81. That should be Nobu, I believe, driving at the moment. We'll hand over to Ryochiro for the 2nd stint. Whereas in the run-up sports car, just a single driver for that car. According to that graphic, although on my entry list there is a 2nd driver. Nishikawa sharing that car with Tanaka. Through the chicane come the two Nissans. That looks like a better exit from the 360 car through there. Able to stay nice and close. And goes for a slightly tighter turn in, but by rounding off the corner like that, you may not have the opportunity to carry the speed all the way down the straight. Looked like it was better, but there was almost like a break in traction from the run-up 360 car, and that is absolutely not what you want when leaving the final turn here in Fuji, because this straight just goes on forever. Back to our leaders then. Motoki Takami on board. Let's see how aggressive he's able to be now that the tyres and brakes are up to temperature. Still got to be very careful. What is not to love about that noise? thundering down the pit straight here in Fuji with a back marker ahead. This has not been caught at the best time either. And Takami was very nervous about what that Mercedes was going to do. Hasn't really given him much of an advantage though. I thought maybe the Ferrari Yamawaki was going to be able to draw in the gap just a little bit, but obviously got caught out as well. Oh. See, those little moments like that where the car steps out, when you watch from outside you barely notice there being a difference, but on the inside when you're watching on board you can see, you can feel so much more about what the car is up to. That's a very mid-line there, turning into the chicane. And that suggests that there's a bit of pressure being felt by Motoki Takami. He's got to get through the full 25 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the strategy of the team. And we also must consider that in the earlier race we saw a lot of penalties for track limits. Once they'd received their warnings, once they'd received their black and white flags, the next step is a penalty, and we did see quite a few dished out. Motoki Takami defending once again down the main straight. Not sure there's much of a need to. Yamawaki just not quite close enough really to get down the inside. He'll be happy though to be able to follow this Corvette, knowing that in the second stint Shinji Takai will take over in Bingo Racing, who is very much a bronze driver, whereas probably one of the fastest drivers in the field, Morionita, will have the K-Tunes. Sorry, not Morionita, he's in the Lexus. It'll be Takagi in the Ferrari. And Takagi there on the inset. That's the Corvette garage. Takagi absolutely the fastest man in qualifying. So that's Takai in the inset in the Bingo Racing garage. Shinji Takai, and he will go up against Shinji Takagi. Lights are flashing. Going to be getting close to the GT4 competitors soon. Always difficult moments to navigate through traffic. It's the Toyota of Nagai, the 97, which is the first car that they will come across. There's the gap to the McLaren. It's not massive, is it? Just 4.2 seconds between Ferrari and McLaren. And Uematsu still hasn't shaken the attentions of the Comet Racing Ferrari, although Hoshino has not been able to hold on. So Hoshino has now dropped 4 seconds back in the D-Station Aston Martin. There is Hoshino. Tatsuya rather than Shinori in the GT World Challenge grid. Nice and clean through the chicane. No pressure from behind. Suinaga in the 96 is 13 seconds back, so doesn't have to worry about that. Then it's the two Nissan Nismos that we've checked in on a few times. But really the main interest is now traffic and getting through that. Just 2.5 minutes before pit window opens, before those with the slower drivers in the car can get that slower driver out, can put their hot shot faster driver in. And I tell you what, Yamawaki is absolutely staying with the Corvette, not letting him get away. But maybe if he was nervous, he's in a happier position to be following rather than being followed. Doing the chasing, being able to copy what's going on rather than having to trust your own instincts. Further back, in 7th position, Yagi and Nishikawa still fighting over 7th, which is 5th in GT3 AM. Lovely to have Team Daishan with us this weekend. And great to see that they are showing they can properly mix it as well. Over the line, the battle in GT4. Look at this. Manopo with Fuji absolutely locked to his gearbox. The BMW has passed and cleared the 38. Now we ride on board with the 39. It's our leader, and on board, we didn't see the guy down the inside, but Fuji had a go. Meanwhile, in the pits, the pro drivers, the silver drivers, and the AMs getting themselves ready to jump aboard. When you pit can always be a big deal. We saw in the GT World Challenge race earlier on how that affected the lead of the race by pitting one lap to the next. And especially with our leading drivers having to get through some of the slower traffic now, choosing the right moment where you're not held up will be very, very key, because the pace of the front of the pack has slowed a little bit since going through traffic. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, to Yamawaki in the Ferrari, a 1:41.16, which actually is barely half a second slower than the pole position time from qualifying. Now, window is open. I have to say, Takami's done such a great job that he, if I am Shinji Takai, I may not decide to pull you in straight away. I would expect the Ferrari probably to come in. Let's have a look. Corvette stays out, Ferrari stays out. We've got a couple of the GT4 competitors pulling into pits. In fact, top 4 in GT4, I think, have all pitted. Manopo, Fuji, there they are, still locked together. And Higuchi also did come into the pit. So top 3 in GT4 Silver Am, getting their silver drivers into the cars. For the number 50 car, it's a familiar name in Masaki Kano. And for the 38, Takashi Soehiro will jump aboard that car. Urabe is the new driver into the 39. We've also got D-Station crawling out of his car, Hoshino. Suenaga in the 96. Now that car is going to be a mover. Surely in the second half of the race, we expect to see that car getting its best laps in with Shinichi Takagi. About half the field have come in to get themselves serviced straight away. Now, presumably, they will run a similar system to the GT World Challenge, whereby the top 3 from the last round, so number 9, number 98, and number 55, will all have extra time on their pit stops. And if that is the case, then that will really mix things up, because it was the number 9 that took victory last time out. Looked to go to the pits just now, but decided against it, so will continue. Such is the performance of Motoki Takami. We want to see what Takagi can do in the Ferrari. Morionita, sorry, into the Lexus. Keep getting those two mixed up. And look at that. Thanks to success penalties, the number 50 BMW is out well ahead of the 39. It was the 39 that took victory last time out at Sugo, whereas the BMW was only third. And so there's a decent gap now between the two as they leave pit lane. It's success ballast playing its part. The 98, second in Sugo, so it too has to wait longer than the team need it to. But the Bingo 9 will stay even longer. It's almost going to completely flip our top three, I reckon, and possibly put the number 7 into the lead of the race. Yamasaki should be taking over the number 7. Haven't seen it in the pits yet, so that's going to come in at next lap, I think. And is that the Corvette running past again? Yes, it is. And almost putting a complete lap on the Ferrari. He does. So Motoki Takami still leads this race. And it is now by a complete lap over Takagi in the Ferrari. Such is the length of the pit stop, plus for the number 98, also 10 seconds hold for success in Sugo. .360 Nissan out the pits, and indeed Tanaka now aboard that car, so our graphic was wrong a little earlier on. Atsushi Tanaka taking over from Nishikawa, and presumably will lock back into the battle with Oyagi. It will be Ruichiro who will be in the car for the second stint of the 81. Now the leader comes in. Now Motoki Takami will hand over to Shinji Takai. Not able to attack the pit speed limiter as much as he might want to. The Mercedes rather dawdling down pit lane. And that's the kind of thing that costs you, you know. That's the kind of thing that is the difference between race win and miss out on victory. The McLaren is also in and quite close to the tail of the Corvette. So with the Corvette needing to do 15-second penalty, whereas the McLaren only with 5, I think we're going to see the McLaren certainly ahead of the Corvette. Where will they place in consideration to the K-Tunes Ferrari? Will they wait and see in a few moments? Into the pits is also the Comet Racing Ferrari, so we're going to get Tsujiko out of that car, and Yamasaki is going to jump aboard the number 7 that missed out on a podium last time out at Sugo, finishing 4th. And these last pit stops conclude the pit stop window. Everyone will have then done their pit stop. 98 did have to serve a penalty of 10 seconds, but Bingo Racing has 15 as a hold. So I would assume that, well, number one, look at that. The number 7 Ferrari comes out and will take the lead of the race here, maybe momentarily, because there's a lot of momentum from the 98. And they go side by side into turn 1, but 98 does reclaim the lead of the race. Pretty slow to get up to speed is Yamasaki in the number 7 Ferrari. And wow, that is how much work Takami has done. He really did work hard for it. So Take now with some work to clear traffic. We are absolutely upside down when it comes to the pecking order. We were pre-pit stop to post-pit stop. Takagi already in the 98 setting best lap times. Remember, he was comparing himself to the GT World Challenge grid. He would have been 7th on that grid, by the way. And that is the time, that is the kind of performance that would have put a smile on his face, as the Japan Cup is, in an ideal world, a feeder series into the GT World Challenge. But the timing, the timing screen is lighting up as our silver drivers now get themselves up to speed. Let's check in with the where we're at then. Takagi comes over the line in the Ferrari, leading the race. The cars weaving behind are the number 7 Comet Racing Ferrari, which sits second with Yamasaki, and then the McLaren of Uematsu, who retains that seat. Just 0.9 of a second between the two of them. And then Bingo has dropped 16 seconds to our leader. So that's about right, apart from the fact that in theory K-Tunes had a 10-second penalty. So just shows the performance. On board with the number 7, the 296 Ferrari GT3. Yamasaki now driving and gets a big swapper on, loses the rear end, has to correct. And is feeling the pressure from the McLaren behind. Uematsu trying to find the overlap as they come into the big heavy braking zone. Looks to go around the outside. There will not be any room there unless the number 7 is being very polite. But that little swap, that little swapper, the break of rear traction was what allowed the McLaren to really think he had a go. As it happened, he has not. This the battle for second position then. Yamasaki in the 7, the white Corvette, white Ferrari. Uematsu in the 55 McLaren 720S. Lights flash to let Kageyama in the 97 Toyota Supra know that there's a battle coming up behind him. How kind will he be? Pulls over to the right-hand side, so that should actually allow both cars easily through. There's a little flash of the brake lights as well. And Yamasaki having to throw the car in a little bit offline through turn 2. But not too critical, and they both make it easily past. This is the best battle on track right now. Just got to be a little bit careful about those penalties. Black and white flag for Uematsu for track limits. The next time he goes fully off track could well be a penalty. traffic to contend with. McLaren 570 just up the road, and maybe not the best timing for the number 7 Comet Racing. Spun here in qualifying, and absolutely, as he wanted to get on the power, there was a McLaren in the way. The Ferrari behind, the McLaren behind, sorry, with better momentum, and is able to make a clean drag past because he didn't have to lift, because he didn't have to get out of the throttle. And that is a change for second position. Uematsu up onto the provisional second step, but later on the brakes from Yamasaki to try and go around the outside. He switches back to the inside. They still run side by side, but there isn't really any kind of a braking zone through this next turn to make it done. He's going to have to try again. That was really good opportunistic driving from Uematsu in the McLaren. But again, the Ferrari able to hold a tighter line. Two very different philosophies through that part of the circuit. There's Comet Racing look on. They're not out of it yet, but this is also the battle for GT-Am. Let's not forget that the 98 is a Pro-Am entry, and it's the Pro that's in the car, or the silver that's in the car right now, setting much better lap times than anybody else by like 3 to 4 seconds a lap, and checking out at the head of the field. So this now has become the big focus on the battle for second position, but the battle for lead in GT-Am. There is the leader. Still with 20 minutes remaining. Plenty can still happen. But Takagi hovering around the 140 mark. Everybody else in the 142s, 43s. The other guy to watch out for in a couple of laps' time will be properly making headway is Nita in the K-Tunes 96 car. Not a great first stint for the 96, but now Morio Nita is aboard that Pro-Am Lexus. He should start making inroads. 6th position right now, but he is now just 0.3 of a second off the Aston Martin ahead of Hammer. Yamasaki. Let's go down to Amy in the pit lane, who has the number 7 car driver.
辻子選手、ご自身のスティントお疲れ様でした。こうセーフに戻ってきましたけれども、どんなスティントでしたか？
いやー、スタートで抜かれちゃって、そこからマクラーレンを守るつもりだったんですけど、スリップ、直線がちょっと遅いので、そこで抜かれちゃった感じですね。そこから追いつくんですけど、ストレートで離されるみたいな。で、最後のちょっとタイヤが垂れてきて、なんとか5秒以内に収めてくれってことだったんで、食らいついていった感じです。
So looking back his stint, it was a little bit pity that he was overtaken at the start, and then he pushed as hard as he can, and gradually the tires were not working as they wanted. So, but he's still very happy about the stint. And 今 P2 の戦いが炸裂してます。
そうですね。予選のアイディアルタイムは相方の方が早かったんで、なんとか、どっかで抜き返してくれることを信じてます。はい。
このままポディウムいけますかね。
はい、頑張ってもらいます。
先もはい頑張ってください。
はい、ありがとうございます。
So looking at the qualifying time, his partner Yamasaki was a little bit better than him, so he has a lot of faith that he will push as hard as he can for this stint as well, and then hopefully they'll end up in the podium. Back to you.
Amy's always making jokes when she's doing Japanese interviews, but she never translates what the joke's about. There's always lots of giggling going on. I want to know. There is Nita. Just as we went to that interview, got himself up ahead of the Aston Martin there, up into 5th position now, but the body language of that Lexus is aggressive. He is ready to take some scalps, just 5.3 seconds off the back of 4th position. The number 9 Corvette And then there's only 2 seconds between the 9 Corvette and the 7 Comet Racing Ferrari, and only 2 seconds up to second position. Quite possibly we're going to have a K-Tunes 1-2 here. Victory in Pro-Am went to the number 9 in Sugo in both races, but the number 9 is not in Pro-Am for this race. And that means the 98 looks shoe-in for it. The other car, the 96, is this one, the one we're following right now, with an overall top speed 4 kilometers an hour faster than anybody else. That can be to the car. That also can just be the exit speed of any individual corner. The gap is tumbling down. Also hearing that there's a potential investigation ongoing on the number 50 car, which is the leader in GT4, the BMW. Unsafe release apparently in the pit lane. And again, as we saw with the GT3 category, Success Ballast has really played its part in GT4. So BMW number 50 now leads. And there's the battle for third position. Takai on the tail of Yamasaki. Needs to get a move on because Nita will be joining the party pretty soon, the Lexus. And the number 7 goes very, very wide and opens the door for the Corvette. Easy pickings for Bingo Racing. Once again, the Ferrari tries to slingshot himself down the main straight. That looked like a beautiful exit, actually, from Comet Racing's number 7. But the grunt of the Corvette pulls itself off the corner and keeps that couple of car length gap. Takai, 30 seconds back from the lead of the race. 5 seconds back from the McLaren of Uematsu for second spot. And there is the Lexus looming large in the mirrors of the Ferrari ahead of it. Almost feels a little bit inevitable, doesn't it? Nito is so much more pace. He is a silver driver, much like Takagi. There's no one else on the grid in GT3 that should be faster than these two, as per driver pairing and driver gradings. By the way, 10-second penalty for the number 50 car. The BMW leads GT4 by just 7 right now, so needs to continue to make a larger gap. Here comes the Lexus, hard on the brakes, down into the chicane, gets itself up into 4th position. Clearly sniffs an opportunity for a podium. It's not going to be long before Bingo is going to be gobbled up as well. Let's go down to Amy in the pits.
本木選手、ご自身のスティント本当お疲れ様でした。もうゆでだこになるようにプッシュされてお疲れ様です。すごいスティントでした。
はい、もうほんま疲れました。
で、今ですね、後ろからレクサスも来てます。ちょっと見てられない状況なんですけれども、どうでしょう、いけますか、ポディウム。
このまま、ここキープか、もう頑張ってもう一度追い上げてくれたなと思いますけど、武井さんもいいペース走ってくれると思うんで、ちょっと期待して待ちます。
それではゆっくり休んで、最後まで見守りましょう。はい。
ありがとうございます。
お疲れ様でした。So yeah, he is very nervous looking at the race right now. However, he, as you can see, just gave his heart out. So he's very happy about this situation right now, and he's now just praying, crossing his finger, so that Takei brings back the car within the range of the podium. Back to you.
Well, he's on the podium right now, the number 9 Corvette, and he'll be on the podium in GT3 AM, probably anyway, but it's the overall that we're really excited about, and for the moment holds on to 3rd position. But Nita is so much stronger, so much faster in that Lexus. Still 12 minutes remaining. How much risk would Takai need to take to be super defensive? Teammate in the garage. I don't think he looked nervous, but he also looked knackered. He looked like he'd really had a workout. We saw when he got out of the car, straight into the deck chair. As I say, new to the team, new to this car. An incredible rookie drive for Takami. And actually, Takei has established a little bit more of a gap. Under braking though, the Lexus draws right back under the rear wing of the Corvette C7. Nothing that they could do down the main straight. The Corvette with good grunt out that final turn. Really having to feather the throttle. It's those long corners here in Fuji where you're just willing your foot to just go a little bit harder on the throttle, ask a little bit more of the tyre. Traffic to contend with now, and it's a fast silver GT4 driver. Suehiro is not going to make it easy for the Corvette, and this might be the chance for the Lexus. Lexus goes to the outside. That is also a K-Tunes run car as well. Gets out of the way, but the run is not good from the Corvette coming out of the final turn. Certainly compromised as they come down the main straight here. The Lexus so big it looms over the Corvette rather than picks up a slipstream. Takei needs to hold that inside line. Don't open the door, or do open the door and let him through. Maybe going to try for the switchback. Nita's just too clever for that. Had to have kept him honest. I thought the way that they were driving, it was going to be possible with just 9 minutes remaining. But you can't give a silver driver an opportunity like that. Opened the door and invited him through. Takei falls off the overall podium. And Nita now sets about chasing down the McLaren, which is only 3.9 seconds up the road. And with the pace that he's able to do, we know he can do a lot better than that. Track limits penalties now starting to filter through. Fukui in the Mercedes, the first to suffer. And there, another check on that drive-through penalty that was given to car 50. It's not a drive-through, but it's a 10-second penalty added on at the end of the race. For the moment, that BMW leads the race, but the gap is only 6.8 seconds to the battle for second, and the battle for second is only separated by 1 second. So it could be that the BMW drops from first down to third. And here is another look at that overtake. All he needs to do was stay on the right-hand side. And it was almost as though he said, after you, sir, please do come through. Easy, easy pickings for a silver driver. Maybe a bronze would have been a little bit more scared off by giving the door so open. Here is our leader, 30 seconds to the good over the McLaren of Uematsu. That is the difference between a fully AM lineup and a Pro-Am lineup, with K-Tunes silver drivers really starring as they did in Sugo. They were just overpowered by the speed of Sesahara. Now, why has the Ferrari got its warning lights on? Oh no! Uematsu really getting held up by the GT4 McLaren there. Couldn't get on the throttle when he wanted to. The Lexus now right onto the tail, and another GT4 car getting in the way. Looks to the inside, manages to get through. The Lexus gets forced super wide, and that might have just helped him massively. Sensible driving from McLaren to look to the inside. Oh, bingo! It's come back at him. The Corvette is right underneath the rear wing of the Lexus. Is this another chance from Takai? That's how easy it can change in the battle for second position. As they come through the traffic, have they got anything else in front of them? I don't think they have. I think that's the last of the GT4 competitors, because there is the leader at the back, a shot. That's also going to have repercussions for the lead in GT4 once that penalty for the number 50 is handed out post-race. Because right now the gap is getting tighter in GT4, and if my maths are correct, Kano could find himself falling off the podium completely here, because you've got the 38 and the 82, just a second difference between the two of them. The Porsche Cayman doing a great job in his second stint, and then the 38 is there and thereabouts as well. Uematsu has been in that car since the start, doesn't share it with anybody else. Will there be any fatigue? He played it so right through here last time by to get past the GT4 cars. The Lexus really should have just tried to follow through. Instead, by going around the outside, by doing its own thing, found himself compromised and invited Bingo Racing back into this little party. Black and white flag showing for number 50. Could have been doing a little bit more naughty stuff. Doesn't need another penalty, that's for sure. We're only just under 5 minutes remaining of this race. And if the Lexus makes another failed attempt at overtaking the McLaren, the Corvette is going to sweep up. The Corvette is going to pick up the pieces. So that pass needs to be clean. Oh, it feels so good when the car is driving like that. See how he was just able to drop the gears, turn it in, no drama. The car absolutely did what the driver wanted him to do. Sometimes, when you look at onboards that are smooth like that, sometimes there's more in the car, there's more in the driver, there's the possibility to fight the car harder. Oh, around the outside, surely you can't go around the outside. Now that is a pro move. Had enough of the Lexus to get all the way around the outside, and the K-Tunes team loved that one. We've seen quite a few attempts there where the car's just been half alongside, and he's not been able to make it stick. But Nita just showed how you can overtake at that chicane and get it done. It's interesting, that line through the final turn for Takai. Really does insist on holding a tighter line, but it does mean on the exit of the turn, he doesn't have the same momentum as the other cars ahead of him. Uematsu and Takai, Corvette versus McLaren. That is the battle for GT3 AM honours. And here is how you overtake at the chicane. McLaren defends, sits in the middle of the road. Lexus comes so deep, but is able to get around the front of the McLaren enough. So there's nothing the McLaren can do. It's all about the left-hander. It's not about the right-hander at all. Having enough of a car in the left-hander so the McLaren can't turn in. It's through some of these corners. I want to grab the right knee of Takai and push that accelerator a little bit harder. Get the car dancing. Oh, been a bit late on the brakes from Uematsu. Just missing the apex there as they go over the rise. All these little errors add up. Again, a tighter line from the Corvette. I don't know if there's a point. I don't know if there's any real need. And I don't see why you wouldn't just follow the McLaren and try and then get a better exit. Because by being tighter, you are only compromising your exit and therefore your speed down the straight. Team Machina. Uematsu didn't get on the podium in either of the races in Sugo. Sorry, I lie, he did in race 2, 3rd position. The Corvette, let's not forget, unbeaten in Sugo. And now some more back markers could spice up the party. Once again, it's that number 97 K-Tunes Toyota Supra, which is flashing its teammate in GT3. Not quite sure if that's a friendly flash or a frustrated flash. We do have the 96 we do have the 16 to contend with as well in a few moments' time for the Lexus, for McLaren and for the Corvette. Looks down the inside, but there's no need to do a half move. It's just a waste of energy. Make a full move, make a proper move, or save yourself for another corner. Because by doing that, by being in the middle of the road when turning in, you're just compromising yourself for the next corner. Back marker caught in the most awkward moment for the McLaren. Now you're close enough maybe to slide down the inside here, but the McLaren goes a bit more defensive, a bit tighter. That's where I'll have gone wider. The tighter line doesn't work, the wider line helps momentum. And now we're on to the final lap, and one last opportunity for the Corvette to get himself back onto the podium here. Suddenly, from being tired, Takami is on his feet and wheeling Takai down the inside. There wasn't really much of a space to get down there. He tried. Needed to be deeper on the brakes. He's just got to commit more. Just going to be deeper through all of these corners. He's got to commit. There is our leader, though. Class the field, Takagi. There is no doubt about it. On the pole position, still got its hazards lights on. Pole position in both the races in Sugo and here in Fuji, but was not able to convert those poles into victories in Sugo. But round 3 here in Fuji, they have Takagi takes the flag and takes the win for K-Tunes. And it's a commanding victory. So much so that we're going to have to wait 30 whole seconds before we get the second place car over the line. And here is a great comeback drive from Morionita in this Lexus RCF. Second both times in Sugo. Sorry, off the podium in Sugo. Nita now with the first podium of the year. The Corvette's going to miss out, unfortunately, despite gallant efforts in the second half of the race to get ahead of Uematsu. Has not been able to do so. And the Comet Racing Ferrari fades into 5th position. But what about GT3? There's the Mercedes that is at the tail end of the category. We're looking for the number 39. Coming down the start and finish straight now, they are going to take victory because The BMW has that penalty. And here comes Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. Orabe takes the victory ahead of the Porsche. And indeed, it is a Toyota in third position. So Masani Kano with that penalty for unsafe release, just a 10-second penalty, but drops the BMW from first down to fourth and off the podium. That is really, really disappointing. Once again, it is a second spot for the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche 718. They took that third spot, sorry, in Sugo. So second, an improvement. But it was all about Takagi. Cruising his way back to pit lane. A solid first stint from Daisuke Yamawaki. But Shinichi Takagi, aged 53 years, is absolutely proven that he can be part of GT World Challenge Asia and be well competitive. Dominant from lights to flag, really. Let's not forget, of course, that GT4 is separated between Silverham and AM, and so brand new team, and the 64 gets itself a victory. McLaren 570S of JBR. And there are your victors. Yamawaki and Takagi. They wanted so desperately to do this after failing to do so in Sugo. And they have made it happen. And they could do the same thing again tomorrow. Let's go down to Amy, who is right there with our winners, and hear how they feel.
さあ、ポールトゥーウィンとなりました。やっとスゴでね、一歩つかめなかったものをつかめました。おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。ちょっと僕は抜かれちゃったんですけど、一応ペナルティの5秒が差があったんで、リスクは取らずに、追いついていけばいいかなと思って、あとは高木さん任せでした。はい。あとはRCF も2位だったんで、すごく良かったと思います。はい。
素晴らしいポールトゥーウィンでした。おめでとうございます。高木選手、まずはおめでとうございます。はい。いや山脇選手がすごくね大変なスティントだったかと思うんですけど、つないで無事つなぎまして、高木選手割とクルーズされてましたね。
頑張って走りました。すみません。抜かれるんじゃないかと思いました。頑張りました。
でも本当ね、スゴでつかめなかったこの真ん中というね、P1 お気持ちいかがでしょうか。
そうですね。ちょっと2回ともね悔しい思いしたんで、ここではしっかり勝ちたいなと思って、それが実現できて本当に良かったです。はい。
改めてポールトゥーウィンおめでとうございました。So first of all, Yamawaki, it was a little bit sad for him that he was overtaken, but then he gave the car safely back to Takagi, and then he said he was sweating, but as you can see, he was kind of cruising with the 39 seconds. But really, they're really happy because they got what they left in Sugo, and being P1 this weekend for the first race in Fuji is really, really a great feeling. Back to you.
That man has not a bead of sweat on him. No, he was not sweating. He looks like he's just, well, I think I've seen more sweat on sim races, actually. I was about to say he's been driving on his sofa, but he really did cruise, didn't he? There's a lot more capacity in the man, that's for sure. But certainly appreciated. And a great day for K-Tunes overall, with the Lexus getting onto the podium for the first time. Missed out the 2 races in Sugo. Plenty of drivers down there to interview, of course, because we've got Pro-Am, Am in GT3, and then we've got Silver Am and Am in GT4. And we can now go back down to Amy, who's with those GT4 victors.
Hari Dharma, 2 races in a row. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, of course. This is my second win in Japan Cup 2024. Of course, I'm feeling great. And yeah, hopefully in the next still get the win.
But so you have the new partner this time. How is the feeling? How's the?
Yeah, start from Thursday. I already many discussion with him, so not much different. But yeah, for me, I many learn from him. Same good driver like Nana Kasanda. Very good.
Then party hard. Oh, there he is. 浦部選手。もう今回ね、チーム助っ人として、参戦してますけれども、初っ端からウィンおめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
どうでしたか？だいぶプッシュしてましたけど。
そうですね。ちょっとブレーキきつくて、タイヤの垂れもあって、防戦一方の展開だったんですけど、運もあってチームもいい仕事してくれて最高です。
改めましておめでとうございました。So as for Urabe, he had some issues with the brakes and the tires, but he pushed as hard as he can, and he is really happy to be in this team at this time, and very happy about this win. And yes, so he is very, very happy to be a member of this team, so he's looking forward to the next race as well.
Manapo then with his second victory of the season. Actually, did they take? Yes, they did take victory in the second race in Sugo. But as highlighted, Nonaka no longer part of that team for this round. And so Urabe taking the points as well. Here's a classification. It was 33 seconds the difference between the 98 K-Tunes Ferrari and its sister car with the Lexus in second position. Great battles though, featuring the McLaren and Bingo Racing's Corvette, with Comet Racing down 52 seconds by the end in fifth position. Aston Martin and the 2 Nissans with Team Daishin beating Run Up Sports. In GT4, it was Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia who took their second victory of the year. Sunrise Boulevard, best result for them, and Wakama Toyota in third, all promoted up to those positions because of the penalty for an unsafe release for the 50 BMW that did take the flag first, but unfortunately got dropped down to 4th. JBR's McLaren 64 winning GT4 AM. Here are the highlights of the Japan Cup Race 1 from Fuji. And a very careful start from the number 7 white Ferrari on the outside opened the door for Bingo Racing's Corvette to look down the inside and grab second position. Soon that Ferrari dropped down to 4th spot as Uematsu in the McLaren passed him. And then we had a good little battle between Bingo Racing Corvette and Ferrari K-Tunes Ferrari. Down the inside, an easy move in the end, and bronze driver gave way to, in the most case, another bronze driver. But for K-Tunes, 2 silver drivers, as Bingo Racing not with Sashihara for this weekend. Success balance from the last round mixed a lot of things up. And plenty of our drivers had to work back through the field, including this McLaren of Uematsu, who did not have a teammate to share the car with. But the biggest mover was Nita in the 96 Lexus. From 6th position, making his way past Bingo Racing's Corvette of Takai, and then through past Uematsu in the McLaren with this beautiful move around the outside of the chicane, and that put them up into second position. We might have seen another fight between McLaren and Corvette. There was plenty of fighting going on, but there was no doubt that the pace setter in qualifying, the pace setter in the race was Takagi, and he took victory by 33 seconds over the Lexus by the end, getting the first victory of the season for that car and that team. Now time for our podium ceremonies. Stefan Rattel, the founder and CEO of SRO, the SR of SRO indeed, presenting the trophies to our Japan Cup competitors. Hard work for our McLaren man in third position on his own throughout the full hours race. And plenty of trophies at K-Tunes this evening. Ferrari 296, Lexus and McLaren on our podium. Now you see, hadn't prepared their bottles before, so the race to open the bottle, taking a while actually. Yes, that's the way to do it. However big or small the bottle, you can still make it fly. And there's absolutely zero consideration for the race suits. I think Takagi's wetter now than he has been all race, to be honest. Watch out, Takagi, you might break a sweat. Here are the point standings then, after 3 races. Wow, just 1 point separates Bingo Racing's Shinji Takai from Yamawaki and Takagi. They then 11 ahead of Satahara, who is not here of course, and quite a gap down to Uematsu in 4th spot. But we are only about halfway through this championship. Race 2 coming up tomorrow. Make sure you join us for that one. Until then, bye-bye. Presumably that was the town of Gotemba, the closest town to Mount Fuji, the jumping off point. Now, those are some race suits, aren't they? You thought the car was colourful. This now the podium for GT3 AM. So we remove the 2K Tunes cars and we push everybody else up, which means McLaren victory. Uematsu already smelling of the champagne from the overall podium. Yamasaki in the 7 Comet Racing car. Takai and Motoki Takami. And there, your victor. Tadeo Uematsu. And Tadeo has already picked up both victories in Sugo, so pretty much as it was, other than the addition, of course, of the bingo car, because in Sugo that bingo car was not an AM car. Comet Racing taking 2 seconds in Sugo, dropping to 3rd. See, if you get in so early that there's no way to retaliate. He hasn't even started, although now that they've all run out of champagne, he can now cover them. If he's feeling willing, I'm not sure. I think he's ruined by that. Won't be able to see tomorrow. Good strategy, like that. Blind your competitor with champagne. So that was the AM GT3 podium, Pro-Am GT3 podium already sorted, I would imagine, because there was only 2 competitors in that, and that was already taken care of in the overall podium. So now we'll be turning our attention to GT4. Silver AM and AM competitions. Once again, lovely Japan Cup trophies handed out to our top 3. So that's the first time we haven't seen that BMW on the podium this year, the 50. Obviously took the checkered flag first, but with an unsafe release penalty, it is Urabe and Manopo who inherit the win. They won last time out in Sugo. They won the 2nd race in Sugo. The 82 got a podium in the race 1. The 38 was 2nd in both races. So pretty similar podium attendees to what we saw in Sugo across 4 different teams. It's just that BMW will be working hard to get himself redemption. In the end, the gaps were very, very small. Arabe to Fujiwara for the win was just 0.3 of a second. And Kano dropped to within 0.4 of a second of being on this podium. So, as we come to expect from GT4, very, very entertaining indeed. Always with young drivers that are potentially moving up. And with the Lexus brand developing a new GT3 car. And now a pathway for the Toyota Supra drivers to move their way through into GT3 racing. Here are the points after round 3. And Minopo ahead by 10 on his own. Fuji and Kano in the 50 car, 10 back, and just 1 ahead of Suehiro in the Wakayama Toyota. Of course, that had a different driver for this round over the last round, so Takeshi on his own, 3rd spot. And one last podium then, the GT4 AM category. Just 2 cars in that category, so Absa Motorsport of Takashi Toyoda and Yasuhito Fukui. 2nd position for them, beaten by our new team, Yatsutaka Ando and Osamu Kondo. And they take victory for the first time of asking for that team. JBR. I think it was just bronze racing, I was told. And their first attempt. Missed out the first round of the Japan Cup. Fantastic to have them with us. In the end, there was a lap between our 2 drivers. I think there was a penalty, though, for the 16, if I remember. Yeah, visited the pits twice, so slightly skewed result. It was... Champagne pops here for the final time in Fuji. We will go racing once again tomorrow. Japan Cup will kick off at 2:15 local time here for their 2nd race. It's 11 o'clock for the 2nd race of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS. And as the clouds continue to roll around the Fuji mountain and bring with it rain, we believe, it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow, so make sure you don't miss it. Bye-bye for now.